Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Out of Spec podcast. It's great to have you here at ACT Expo, where, there's everything EV charging. And we are joined today by Chris Thorson from FLO. And we're going to talk about what you have here on site, what y'all have been up to. We've covered a bit of your stuff on the Out of Spec channels before, Out of Spec reviews. You've come up in conversation, especially for curbside charging. That's kind of happened in some conversations that I've had. So excited to see where y'all are at today. This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for Out of Spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes. Can you tell me a bit about you and your position at FLO and how you got here?
Sure. So I'm Chris Thorson. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer at FLO. Been here now 2.5 years. FLO itself has been here about 15 years in the EV charging business, and I think we're like one of those best kept secret stories out there. We've been started off in Quebec and have done most of our installations in Canada, but we've had also some great installations in the city of Los Angeles. We've got a couple hundred chargers there. Also city of New York, a couple hundred chargers there. So you're right, curbside's been big for us. But as we'll see today, we're not just about curbside, we're also about DC fast charging, level 2 charging on public and also private. So
I think that's really interesting about curbside charging, especially being that it was in Canada. Because now, this is a show in North America in Las Vegas, very American. But curbside charging isn't something that we've really seen in our market a lot of. Do you feel like starting kind of in that part of the market, of that use case, was a good start to where you are today? Because now you've expanded to home and faster charging. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
It's absolutely like our sweet spot. It's where we started. If you were to go up to, Montreal and Toronto and Quebec City and some of those places where we got started, it's a lot more penetration of EVs because electricity is a lot cheaper up there. And so there was a faster early adopter segment of EV users. But there's also an interesting dynamic where a lot of people up there don't have garages. They have to do on-street parking. And so EV charging, it's like, well, where am I going to do this and how are we going to solve that problem? So it just all that kind of came together and made it a really good proving ground for us. And it also taught us something about reliability. From day one, we've said, these things have got to work. They've got to work every time. And so we've, from day one, been a leader in reliability. 98% or better is what we'll quote. We'll guarantee that with our performance warranty upgrades. And that's really I feel like the rest of the industry has kind of figured that out now, or figuring that out now, reliability counts.
Yes, it definitely counts. If it's not the only thing that counts, right? Of course, your product should work, but
of course,
just in general. But when I pull up, no matter the situation, how cold it is, how hot it is, where it's located, if I have Wi-Fi connection, maybe, I want it to work and charge my car. So, okay, we're at your booth, but I also want to talk a little bit about your structure within your hardware and your software. So are you manufacturing? Are you selling these? Kind of what's the model? Because what's the also customer relationship? How deep does it get? Can you paint a picture?
Sure. Yeah. I'm glad you asked that. We are a vertically integrated company. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you're in the industry, you get it. It means we make the chargers ourselves. We have our own software, right? We can control, we service and support those. We sell them, And so by designing and manufacturing and installing and maintaining our own network, when you put all that together, we really know that entire customer experience. And you said it's more than just reliability, right? It's that customer experience. Mm-hmm. We want to understand at each step what that customer is going through, and if there's a problem, we can fix it. And we're going to fix it because we know we got to make sure this stuff is reliable. We know that person has to have a great experience, because when they walk away from a FLO charger, we want them to think, hey, I'm going to go do this again. This is going to work.
Great. So with the hardware research and development, I know, you said you've been around for 15 years, which is a long time in this industry, especially. But so where does your research and development happen, and kind of where do you approach it?
Yep.
Yeah. And do you have any suppliers that you work with?
Yeah. So the majority of our R&D is out of our Quebec City office. We also have an office in Montreal. We do some design work there and a lot of our testing there. And then we've also got some manufacturing facilities just out on the outskirts in a place called Shawinigan. Most of you probably haven't heard of that.
Cool.
And then we also have a manufacturing facility in Michigan. And we just opened that up a little over a year ago. And we'll talk about our FLO Ultra, but that's where that product is going to be manufactured. So we've got design, engineering, manufacturing, and it's spread out kind of in that northeast part of the country.
Okay, very cool. So maybe let's start with kind of, do you have your flagship charger on site, and then we can move into your newer items?
Okay, so yeah, we've got a couple. We could start. Well, we can start right here since we're we're right here. This is our Smart 2 charger, and this, as we were talking about, like that kind of curbside where it all got started. And what was so unique about this charger when it first came out is we've got this nice little locking door mechanism. So once you come up to the charger and you say, okay, I'm going to start my session, once you authenticate, this door will unlock, and now I'm going to be able to go get to my pistol and be able to plug in and start my charging experience. Whoops. So this is just such a bulletproof charger. You can see it's all made out of rugged aluminum. We see these mounted in a lot of different scenarios. Sometimes they're just on, posts. They can have a cable management system, so to keep the cord off the ground, keep it out of the snow, and all of that. So it's a level 2 type of system. We've also seen these installed on like street posts and street lights. Other people are starting to figure out that was a good idea that we started doing in the city of LA to repurpose the energy that's already in the ground. So yeah, Smart 2 this is one of the places where it really got going.
Okay, yeah, we've talked about those curbside chargers before and taking advantage of the infrastructure that's there, even if it's just street lights and you're not sure how much power you can get from them, but they exist, people park next to them. Okay, so these are mounted somewhere typically.
Yeah.
And these have cables that are not detachable. Have you experimented with that model?
Yeah, we have not gone down that model. I know that's a European model where people will have their own cord in the trunk of their car. And that's not a direction really that North America has adopted so much, because people were worried about stealing and cutting the cables. We hear that every now and then, that people are stealing a cable. But hey, note to everybody out there, there's not a lot of copper in these things, so not worth stealing. And those thieves will figure that out later. Please don't steal. It just creates it's just a pain for everybody to have to replace them. But there's not a lot of money in those cables for people to go steal.
We're already trying to charge our EVs
exactly
on the roads. Don't take the cables. Okay, so this is the Smart 2. How many of these do you have deployed in the U.S.? I know you talked about Canada. I mean, in general, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got thousands of these things deployed. I don't know my numbers for the U.S. We're regional. We're kind of in the Northeast. As I said, we've been in New York, we've been in LA, we're seeing a lot in the Pacific Northwest, we're seeing a lot in like the Chicago, Ohio kind of valley area. So that's where most of if you're in one of those areas, you're probably going to see FLO. Detroit and Michigan is another area that we've been growing too. Are
there specific regions that are better for you right now in terms of infrastructure? Is there more incentives? Is it the utilities out there? Can you give me a picture of the space?
We do track all of the utility programs, all the government programs. Right now, I mean, it's just true that there's a lot of chasing government dollars, because whether it's at the municipal level, at the state level, at the federal level, there's different incentive programs. So we actually have on www.flo.com, FLO.com, we have a tracker on there. So for every state or province, if you're in Canada, but for every state, you can go on there and you can see these are all of the incentive programs that are available in my area. And we are really good about keeping that updated.
That's great.
And of course, especially where we qualify, we want to make sure that we help our customers get those dollars and get chargers in the ground.
100%. Okay. So,
you want to move on?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one. Where should we go?
Let's just go walk over the other side, and then we'll kind of go around to the middle.
Perfect.
This next charger, this is more for the, it's also a level 2 charger, commercial charger. So now we're thinking like if it's it could be a retail store, it could be a workplace, it could be a multi-user residential building.
Okay.
But basically, it's more likely a private installation. They're still rugged. They're still made out of aluminum. They're still going to give you your charge in a good amount of time. We've got the cables on these things can up to 15 feet. We make them real flexible. That's partially that's by design, because for the cold, so these things don't freeze up on you. We make them. I know it looks like that doesn't look like 15 feet to me. That's just for the trade show. We make it a little shorter so we don't have cords all over the place. Just like the Smart 2, I can mount it with cable management. I can put two of these back to back, side to side. So you got a lot of different mounting options with these.
Great. So I forgot to ask it back there, but in terms of the power that I'm getting out of these, what kilowatts?
Yeah, it's like a 19.2 power.
Okay.
So you're really going to get a good charge in a couple of hours.
Okay.
So, thinking about use cases again, it's not like a fast charger where I'm going to go into the grocery store and 30 minutes later I'm going to have a fully charged car, but I might be there for a couple of hours. I might be shopping for 2 or 3 hours. It's more like a top-up type of a scenario, or I'm going to work in the morning and by the time I leave at night, I'll be charged.
Workplace charging.
The other thing about these is that it becomes more important in a fleet setting like we're talking about here at ACT. I can do power sharing. So if I have a bank of these chargers and multiple people are coming in or coming off the grid, I can adjust the amount of power so that everybody is getting the same amount of charge as they need it. So it's called power sharing. It just helps me optimize where I place all of my my distribution boxes, and then also the wiring, so it cuts down on installation charges. So I don't have to have separate lines to each and every charger that's out there.
Okay, and you're speaking from I can optimize it. I can do that. Who's that? How is that happening exactly?
Well, this can be either FLO can be the provider, and we can install and work with our set of contractors to get these put into the ground. We also don't always have to touch every one of these. We have a great network of channel partners. We work with people like FSG and Rexel and Platt and many other installation partners across the country. So no matter where you're at, if you need to get a hold of us, you can always start at FLO.com and we'll get you connected with some local channel partner that can get these things installed.
Okay, cool. So I could customize it a bit. Say I'm a workplace owner. I want to add this amazing amenity for my employees.
Yep.
I can make it free. I mean,
yeah. So,
or discount, like who sets the pricing?
Exactly. You get to set the pricing. That's where our software comes in. I don't have a software stand here, but yeah, we have an owner's portal that you can go into, and in that owner's portal, you can set, do I want to charge, by the hour? Do I want to charge by kilowatt? Do I want to make it all free? We also have a, FLO card that you can that's where the little hand is. You can just tap on there. So you could make it private to your users, like give them all a FLO card and have them tap, and then they don't even have to worry about it. Mm-hmm. But then that also prevents people that are not in your network. That's why it's in this case, more of a private solution. Mm-hmm. If somebody's not in your network, they can't get on it. So it depends. Or you could say, it's for my workers, they get the free card or they get the free access, but anybody else that wants to charge it, you're going to have to pay.
Right. Okay.
So we leave that up to the owners to decide how they want to set their pricing models.
Okay, so you're just speaking to those RFID cards, which are nice and handy. Also, you have an app. Could I just tap my credit card?
Yeah.
How does payment work?
So payment, you're right. We would either use the RFID FLO card or you would pay through your app.
Okay.
Right now on these chargers, as you can see, there's no place to swipe on there, and the tap is purely for our FLO card right now. That's just, and people say, well, why don't you do that? I'm like, because it takes time to develop new chargers, and when we got these things going, we're like, those payment processing capabilities just weren't there. Uh-huh. So on this generation of these chargers, we don't have a tap to swipe. But when we get to the other newer stuff, we do.
Okay, interesting. I mean, that's a good segue to the other newer stuff. Why don't we head over there? Okay.
So let's kind of continue our little tour around the FLO booth. Hopefully you like our booth. So next up here, we have our FLO Ultra.
Excuse me.
FLO Ultra is our DC fast charger. This we just announced with you guys about a year ago.
Yeah.
It was Distributech in San Diego is when we first unveiled the FLO Ultra.
And how are these? Do you have them in the ground? How is it growing your footprint?
Our first one went in the ground this month, so we're super excited. And you're like, why did it take so long? Well, we pre-announced a little bit. Actually, if you shoot over to that real quick, the video there is our CEO plugging in the very first charger having on his F-150. He's charging that up.
Nice snowy day.
Nice snowy day in Quebec where he was plugging in the first charger there. So.
Okay. So, of course, I mean, it's kind of good, weather testing, climate testing. You're up in Canada, you get pretty cold winters. What do y'all do for testing so that I know no matter how hot or cold it is when I show up, this is going to work?
So we take all of our products and we send them out to a third-party lab. And so they go through these climate cycles where they put them through rain, they put them through snow, they put them through heat, and they cycle it over and over and over and over. We even do the same kind of testing like for the cable management. You'll see on our website a test where we just do cable pulls. I'll show you the cable management system here in a moment. But we just pull the cable and retract it, and pull the cable and retract it. And I think we've done that like 30,000 times on these cables because people are wondering, like, is it going to break? I'm like, it's not going to break. And that's like 14 years worth of use every day, twice a day. Like, they're going to work.
Yeah, I think that repetitive nature of putting these through kind of situations that you wouldn't imagine maybe happening, but something could happen similarly is a good approach because we've seen that, it can totally, with all the stories in Chicago earlier this winter when people couldn't charge, that was for whatever reasons, but it has started the conversation about, okay, if it's cold out, will chargers work? And it's good to know how you are testing this.
Yeah, will they work, and what does it affect on my battery? And people are just getting more attuned to it. Yeah, it's just sometimes different, right? In EV charging, you can argue there are pros and there are cons about driving an EV or not. I don't care what kind of political side of the spectrum on you. Yes, it's just going to be a little different. But I'll tell you, when you add it all up, as an EV driver myself, I have both, of course. But the benefits really, in my mind, so far outweigh the cons of charging. Because you just don't have to go to the gas station anymore if you don't need to. If you're charging at home, and we'll talk about home and charging in a minute. But if you do go on that great American road trip, knowing that there's fast charging infrastructure out there is great to know.
It is. So this is interesting because you decided to go into, ultra charging, fast charging. It says up to 320 kilowatts, right? Yep. Why would you extend from the level 2 into, this is such a bigger project. I mean, truly, you're breaking ground in a totally different way. It's far more expensive. I'm sure there's different kind of partnerships that you have to build. Why go into the fast charging direction besides that? We need it,
we need it. There's money to be made, and you want to offer a complete portfolio of products. Like, we're in the EV charging space. We're not just a little niche player. We want to show that we do all of this. We didn't bring our older smart DC products that are 50 and 100 kilowatt products. Those are still going to be in the marketplace today. Those aren't going away. This is really at that higher end of fast charging in the 320 kilowatt space, as you mentioned. But we do on this unit offer 2 different cable options.
Okay.
One, we have a standard cable, and then we also have a liquid cooled cable. We let our customers purchase that. I'm sure you've probably done some reviews on this, but there are also pros and cons to those liquid cables too. Depending on where you are, if it's really hot, actually standard cables work pretty darn well in hot environments, because at some point the liquid can't cool off as well. But in the cooler environments, actually you would think, oh, liquid, it's going to freeze. No, actually, because when you get the heat going through that, it's actually a really good environment. So there's just little nuances that we've learned, and so we've offered them, both for our customers.
Okay. And this is obviously, I'm going to
press the button. There you go.
CCS.
Yep.
Charger. Do you have plans for J3400?
Absolutely.
And what are those? And
absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you used the J3400 instead of the NACS, right? That's Tesla connectors. That's dead to us.
But it is a standard now.
Yeah. So we as soon as we announced this product, as soon as last summer those announcements came out about people moving to the J3400 standard, we said, look, we designed this such that we knew there could be a potential for a change in the cable. So the little plate the receptacle that this goes into, that can just be simply changed out. It's just one unit, and then same thing on the cable, we can just put a different end on the cable, essentially add some software, because J3400, there is some software in there as well. and now we're ready. So we designed it with different cables, different connectors in mind, so we don't have to redesign the whole darn thing.
Okay. And then we're looking at, there's 2 dispensers here. There's 2 cables. Is it sharing the 32 or 320 kilowatts?
So yes, the 320 kilowatts. So if there's nobody over there and I come up on the left side or the right side, whichever one you come up to, and plug in, I can get the full 320 on that one side. Now you come up and you want to be on the other side. Now I can split that between the 2.
Okay.
Now, over time, let's say I've got 2 of these units next to each other. So now I've got 4 dispensers. I've got 2 FLO Ultras. I'm actually going to be able to redirect even more energy, so I can get up to 500 kilowatts going through just a single one of these plugs, because I've got power sharing going on between the 2 units. Now, now we start getting into some complexities. Well, what if I've got 3 in 1, and what if I've got cars with different charging and all that? So that's where the software guys come in and we say, look, we're going to be fair. We're going to distribute this around, so not one person is hogging all the energy from one particular
Like we always
charge.
reference the Porsche Taycan, that if you came up and tried to charge, if it got priority, it would take a lot of the energy for a good amount of time.
We just did a video where we had a FLO Ultra, and we said, okay, what are 2 big power users we can get? So we got a Porsche on one side, and we got the Hummer on the other side. And we've got a video of the 2 charging at the same time, just to show people.
And the charger did all right.
The charger did just fine. Yeah, it was not a problem at all.
And this is obviously a different footprint than we usually see. So, I mean, if you're tuning in on YouTube, you can see this FLO Ultra charger, but it is not just a rectangle of a dispenser like we typically see. This is a larger footprint. Can you explain to me what's going on here?
Great. Glad you asked the question, because we know it's a different design. We call it a monolithic design, where we've got the power modules are in this cabinet we're seeing in the middle of the charger. The dispensers are kind of on the side. That's opposed to having power modules in a cabinet that are just, like in other manufacturers' products called a distributed architecture, where those sit off to the side. We put it all together. One is for a serviceability perspective. It's a little more cost effective, a little easier to deploy. I don't have to run cable under the ground. The other thing about the way we design this, like, how tall are you?
Like 5'3", maybe like 5'4".
5'3" with a little bit of heels. Maybe she's got a little bit. Can you see over the top of that charger?
Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so let's say there was a guy on the other side of the charger hiding behind the charger. Now, if they're squatting down, sure, but generally speaking, if you're a lady and you're coming in the middle of the night, you can probably get a scan around here and say, you know what, I can see there's nobody around here. If you're really worried, you could walk around the back side. But hopefully nobody's going to sneak up on you. And so we were thinking about trying to keep that thing low so people can see over the charger, and it didn't become this big ominous thing.
So that was purposeful in this design.
That was purposeful in this design.
Such a big wall.
And the other reason why we have this design the way it is, you'll see, and I'm not going to open it up, but we have these doors on these big doors on the front, and that's for serviceability. So the technician, if they've got a power module that's up 4 or 5 feet in the air, those things are heavy, so they don't have to lift those up. It's designed to be serviceable by just one person, so they can get to the doors and get inside.
And what is the setup like in here, speaking of the modules?
So yeah, it's just a banks of power modules on either side of it. I think we've got 4 slots for different size power modules on there. Then those power modules can be separated. We didn't pack this one with power modules, so that's why we have it closed right now.
Sure.
Basically, it's cheaper to ship for a show environment, so it makes it a little bit easier.
Dummy charger, right?
There's only maybe 3 people in the whole place that actually want to open up the charger inside.
Where's some of them?
And you're probably one of those. Well, come see the live one up in Quebec, and we'll show you the insides and take you through the.
With the insides, have you designed them so that you can upgrade the power in time? Is there space for that? Is it just a question of the modules?
It's just a question of modules. So we've come out with the 320 kilowatts on this first implementation because that's what was needed for NEVI.
Okay.
Right, 320. NEVI actually asks for 2 stations or 4 dispensers, each with 150 kilowatts. Just because we went with 40 kilowatt modules, it added up to 320. We designed the architecture so that we are going to be able to pack it with different sizes. So if I wanted to do 160, I could pack it with smaller modules. If I wanted to go up even more, I could pack it with 50 kilowatt modules. So we started off because we found the kind of price performance and market needs drove us to where the 320 was.
Okay,
but
great.
yeah, we're going to be able to swap those out, and it's just a matter of we got to test all those different configurations.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, and then lighting. I noticed, and we were talking about safety, and being a woman, this is a conversation for women who have EVs. You know, you're sometimes in a dark parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
This is your lighting we have here. Does it change? Do you also include any other lighting at your sites?
Yeah, we don't have other lighting per se. These are actually quite bright.
They are.
Especially, you know, even in a trade show with lots of lights around, you can still see it pops. The lighting will adjust and change as I actually start to use it. So we've got a kind of a demo here for those that aren't here. I'll just kind of talk people through it, and I'm going to just have the software go do its thing. Mm-hmm. So it's going to pretend that we've gotten plugged in, and once that starts to happen, oh, there it goes. Now it's connecting. So now it just went to all white up top. You can see. So it's like, okay, so now I'm starting to talk to somebody. And when I go to actually start to charge, and I've done my payment, then you'll see like a blue line at the top, and that blue is going to tell us, oh, we're just barely getting started with our charge, and as I continue to charge, that line is going to get longer and longer and longer as my battery starts to fill.
Great.
And so we've just simulated that here
That would
for
be so
our
nice
setup.
if my EV charged that quickly.
Yes, wouldn't it be nice if it charged that quickly?
But it doesn't.
So yeah, we've got a little bit of a time-lapse thing going on here,
Yes.
but you can now see that the light is a little bit longer on top, and that just gives us an indication that, look, and the other thing you can see is this is blue, it's in the midst of being charged, and that green one is over there, it's available for everybody else.
Okay.
And at some point when this thing is all done charging, it's going to yell at us, it's going to yell in yellow,
Okay.
and that's going to tell us, hey, your charging session is done. You need to get off this thing before I start maybe charging you for idle
You can
time.
add idle fees.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I guess that will change. And then also one more thing I wanted to ask is about the technicians that would need to come to a site to fix it. Who are they? Where are they coming from? How do you make sure that your response time is as quick as possible?
Great question. It depends on the density of the chargers in that area. So for example, when we did our New York deployments, we have 2 FLO technicians that are roaming around the streets of New York, fixing chargers and making sure that we maintain our uptime. And in New York, we've seen 99% or better uptime on a monthly basis in New York. So really good charging uptimes in some of our higher density locations in Montreal and Toronto. We've also seen some of those too, as well as LA. But let's say you're in the middle of, I don't know, Portland, and we've got a smattering of FLO chargers. We don't have a high density. Well, we have contractors that we can call out to, and those contractors will ensure they've been trained on the FLO equipment. They know how to go out there. They can sell new FLO equipment, but they can also fix it.
Okay. And how do you identify that there's an issue at a charger?
So we have what's called our CSNMS package. It's our software basically in our NOC back in our home office, Network Operations Center. We see alerts and alarms. This charger in particular has over 250 different sensors tracking every little component around there. So if something goes wrong, we get a notification, and now we know, hey, first, can we troubleshoot it remotely? If we can, great. If we can't, we'll roll a truck if we absolutely have to.
Okay, so out in the field, we've kind of covered it, and of course you also have now at-home charging, which is something that if you have an EV, it's great to have, but if you can't, hopefully you have curbside charging. Maybe you have to depend on fast charging, hopefully not, but should we take a look at your at-home charging options? Sure. Okay. So,
and if you're in, for those people as we walk by, you're not here, check out our cable management videos. We've got some cable management's pretty unique on FLO Ultra.
These are empty, right?
Yeah.
These, okay.
So no, this is like going to be the full length cable.
Yes.
You notice like when I start to pull on the charger, it actually is a cable assist. And the benefit there is like I'm not having to lift the entire weight of this cable because these things are pretty darn.
Oh yeah.
These things are pretty darn heavy.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble with cables, especially if I'm trying to film like what I'm doing with one hand. I can't. Yeah.
So press that button on there again. It might take. There's like a little bit of a delay. Once again, it's just kind of for demo purposes, and then and then it'll start to retract.
Oh, I heard
there
something.
It goes.
Oh.
and it'll pull it right back on up there for you.
That's really
You can
nice.
put it back in there. So you won't have to do that extra button press on a live charger. It just knows as soon as you disconnect,
It'll start
to retract and re-engage. So it's not going to like rip your arm out of the
Okay.
socket. So you don't have, there's no user knowledge in there. It'll just work. You're going to be up to 500 kilowatts is where these guys can do their max
Okay.
through, but that's what they're rated for. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Great.
On the voltage. Okay. And so you asked about home charging.
Yes.
So this is our brand new FLO Home. This is our X8. We also have an X3, an X6, but our whole family of home smart chargers were just announced in April, and they'll be shipping this summer.
Okay. So how is this distinct from your other chargers? Because the other ones you could have at your workplace that's slow charging. Maybe you could have it at multi-unit housing. Is this for someone in their garage? Is it more for those condo garage parking? Tell me.
It could be both.
Okay.
But it's primarily for the EV user that, hey, I just need a charger. I just bought a car, just bought my first EV. They get home, then maybe the thing that they gave them with it, or they don't want to just plug in with the regular 110 volt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're willing to upgrade, maybe do a 220 power outlet at your own house, then you can plug in one of these guys, and you can either have it hardwired or you can use a dryer plug, essentially, a NEMA connector.
Yes.
And it's real easy to plug in a FLO charger and get yourself up and going.
Okay, nice. Do you have any partnerships with any automakers to offer a FLO charger with the purchase of an EV?
So not this one yet, but we're actually in dealerships for like Nissan and Mercedes, and with some GM partnerships. So those are going. They haven't co-branded this one yet because it's just brand new.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have reselling agreements where you can get our chargers or access to our chargers from those dealerships at the time that you buy your EV.
And then, did you tell me already the max kilowatts?
So this one can be up to 80 amp charger.
Okay.
Which is I can't do my math in my head. I think it's, I don't know how many I think it's, somebody online is going to get me there.
That's okay.
So anyway, but it's an 80 amp charger. We can also scale it down to being 50 amps, 40 amps,
Great,
32, 30.
sometimes-
So we got a little button in there or a little dial in there. You can set how much depending on your breaker at home.
Oh, great. And if you upgrade, then you can crank it up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so, the X8 is the 80 amp version. The X6 will go up to the 50 amp version, and so will the X3. The only difference really on the X3, the X6 is the casing. So the X3 is a plastic enclosure.
Okay.
The X6 goes up to a metal enclosure. The X8 also has a metal enclosure.
And
so that's one of the primary differences. They've all got a great, 25-foot cable.
And then pricing goes up along with that as well?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And we haven't announced pricing yet on the X3, but I'll tell you it's going to be cheaper than what we've got today, which will be very competitive. And then the 6 and the 8 will be a little bit more.
Okay, great. And what about installing these? Do you help your customers get contractors or?
Yeah. So if you want to get, if you get an NEMA plug, you can probably do the darn thing yourself.
Yeah.
But I would still check your power outlet to make sure it's kind of a more industrial grade power outlet, because
definitely
those dryer plugs aren't really made to charge for 6-8 hours at a time, especially if you got a higher voltage going through there.
Yeah, a lot to be careful with.
Yeah, so I'd be careful with there. But you can also hardwire them in too. So I lost where I was going.
The contractor.
Oh, the contractors. Yes, thank you. So yes, we have a network. We partner with Qmerit, and so you can directly, when you order your charger, if you order it through our site, you can be connected with Qmerit and have somebody come out and schedule an install and get it done right away. And we're looking with some other partners to do that too.
Okay, great. Anything else you want to tell us about FLO Home?
Like I said, this new X series, the 3, the 6, and the 8, as I said, will start in summer. Start shipping here in summer this time. So get on and get your orders made soon.
Yeah. Why not? And okay, maybe we'll step over here. And so now we've seen you've got, your curbside charging. You have I mean, level 2 charging options, you have the ultra charging and you have at home now. So that's a pretty thorough lineup, I'd say. What have been the most, I don't know, interesting challenges or surprises that you've come along the way as the company to get to this point?
Well, I think it's, education has been one of the things that just overall in the market has been a challenge. I think people, we've going from those early adopters where it was just a few percentage of cars on the road were EVs. Last year over 1 million EVs sold. It's been doubling every year. We were like 7, 8, 9% of all new car sales are now EVs. That's going to go up. And so I think there's a lot of this kind of industry tribal knowledge about whether you're a city trying to install chargers and there's like, I got this dumped on my desk, where do I start? Or you're a homeowner that says, well, do I even need something? Like, what do I need at home? How much power do I take? That's been kind of all sneaker net in the past. Everybody, one user talking to another user. Now it's going mainstream. And so getting the word out about these challenges, about these things that in the industry we see as very simple. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more complicated for the folks that are trying to make these decisions and trying to get these chargers installed, because it's just all new. It's just new technology, new terminology.
Haven't had to do it before. I can imagine different municipalities are thinking, okay, someone on the team is probably suggesting we should add some EV charging, but where do you start? And I've seen that, they might have made some decisions many years ago that aren't holding up. So hopefully we're on our way to have, better.
Yeah, like
better
how hard could it possibly be? And then they get into it, and it's maybe not that hard, but it can be confusing and intimidating. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, whether it's the blog resources that we have on our website around doing interviews like this, where we're just trying to get the word out and try to take some of the anxiety for folks away. Like, this can be done, and it can be done well, and it's been done before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so into the future, where's FLO looking to go? You have this lineup. I'm sure you want to grow your footprint everywhere. But what's next for y'all? Yeah,
FLO, we really want to get into the not only North American market, the U.S. market, I should say, in more particular. We're a leader in Canada. I live in Boulder, Colorado, and I know if somebody else, great. I know if somebody else came up to me like, well, that's great. That's like the 51st state, right? I mean, there's a bias, but the reality is we've solved a lot of these challenges, whether it's curbside, whether it's a home charging. We're actually top 2 player in Canada. It's basically a 2-horse race between us and those T guys. So we know we can do this. We know we can do it at scale. We want to bring that reliability. And as we started the conversation, it's not just about reliability, but it's also about the experience and about usability.
Of course.
And making sure these things are easy to install, easy to maintain, and people have a good experience when they go with FLO.
So you have your footprint in Canada, competitive there. What is the biggest challenge of coming into the American market compared to the Canadian?
Really, in the U.S., the challenge for us right now is just getting known and people taking a chance on what they perceive as a new guy, but we're the oldest new guy around the block, right? We've been there, we've seen this, we've done that, and so it's important that people just take a chance and trust us. And I'll tell you, our motto is EV charging done right, and it's more than just about the charging. It's just how we do business, and that's why it was a more descriptive term for us, because at every meeting that I'm in, we're asking ourselves, well, what's the right thing to do for the customer here? What's the right thing to do for the design here? What's the right thing to do from a support perspective? And that has really permeated through the company, and I think really sets us apart. It's not just about the hardware, it's about the experience, it's about the people. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what have you seen here, or what have you thought about ACT as an event? I mean, this is my first time at ACT. FLO has been here before, but this is my first time at ACT. I'm kind of excited by the customers that I'm seeing today. Are you seeing the same as you've walked the show floor?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of people here, and it's a lot of, what we talk about a lot is, of course, we're taking advantage of all the incentives that are offered local, state, federal level, and that's great. So to see who's coming out with not just the concepts, but who's putting it into the ground and gathering their data and charging whoever it is, and making the models that really work. I think that's what's most interesting to us, because as we know, things can change. It's a very dynamic industry to be in, and so to have an adaptive team, but also a business model that will last throughout. It's interesting to see the different approaches, and of course, I love to see more fleet electrification here. I think that there's a ton of impact to be had as well. In terms of fleet, do y'all think about that? This seems more passenger vehicle,
Yeah, we've talked quite a lot about, like I said, the portfolio and more of a hardware perspective. What I think is interesting about this show is it seems to me the first show, or the only show where all the players are here, at least from a charging perspective, right? We've been to Distributech, and we've been to some of the auto shows, and we've been to some of the, what we call vertical shows, like a building management show or a hospitality show or a retail show. But this is like all the charging guys seem to come together to this one, probably because there's some money to be made in fleets, and there's some opportunity, and there's some problems that they need to, on the leading edge, actually, on the fleet side, around power sharing, around reliability, because it's not just a nice to have for fleet folks, it's a must have. Your business runs on making sure that fleet is on the road, that the time that's spent at the depot is time well spent, that they're not only charging but getting reloaded or fueled up and staffed up for whatever their day-to-day job is. So we like to be part of that, and it's great to see everybody come together.
Yeah, it's really cool. That's a good point. Everyone is here. And so taking in like your experience with Flo's experience, what you're seeing here, looking into the future, what do you see happening in this industry, especially as, it's a little bit unpredictable, but one day the funding will go or whatever might have you. It's very dynamic. Looking forward, what do you see of the future of EV charging?
Well, I like to think of myself, I'll do sometimes on the weekends a little bit of off-roading. And as part of that, like, we're still kind of on that we've maybe been going through a lot of big rocks where we've had to get over a lot of obstacles, and it's been really difficult. But now we're kind of getting onto a gravelly road where there's a few bumps, and pretty soon we're going to get on the highway. We're going to step on the gas, and we're going to be going really fast. And so I'm looking forward.
It's a nice visual.
Yeah. So I think we're really actually kind of headed. We've gotten a lot of the really hard stuff out of the way, right? The products are there, the knowledge is there. The infrastructure is coming, the funding is now coming together, and so it's really exciting to think about being able to step on the gas and go fast. And I think that's what this whole industry has got to get ready for, because a lot of the related industries have been historically pretty slow moving.
Oh yes.
That's not going to cut it going forward. People are going to have to make decisions. People have to get things in the ground and make it happen now.
It's a very bureaucratic process, no matter kind of who you're dealing with energy or land or whatever it is. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how timelines are shortened, which is definitely something that stands in the way of quick infrastructure being put up. I know. Which of course is understandable. They have their traditions, they have their ways, but it'll be cool
it's all for good reasons. Like you said, for safety and reliability and security and all those reasons. You can't jump into things lightly. You got to do things the right way, and that's what we're all about.
All right. Thank you so much for showing me around your booth, Chris, and for telling me about Flo and everything. Looking forward to see what y'all do next and growing in this market. I know that we need more reliable charging, so any more that we can get. Yeah, appreciate your time and energy today.
Well, thanks for coming by. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for tuning into the Out of Spec podcast and for walking around the booth with us. Hope you enjoyed. Like we said, you can find Flo online at flo.com. And is there anything else that you want to roll out the red carpet for our audience?
Well, like I said, please come visit us at www.flo.com. Make sure to check out some of our blog series on whether it's the home charging, whether it's fast charging. We do some that are more technical oriented, some that are more policy oriented, but that's where you're going to get a lot of the great information.
Yeah.
We've even got some cool stuff like just learning like how fast does it take to charge my particular car. We've got some great demos that we can share with people online. So check us out.
Yeah, would love to know if y'all have charged at a FLO charger and where it was, how it went. Maybe you're Canadian. That's probably the likelihood there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for tuning into the Out of Spec podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.